The biggest note for you of the month, obviously, Liam, is TNA shows became available, starting with the January 23rd show. So there you are. Australia can finally watch TNA.
Yeah, I actually was just reading results this entire time up until now. But this is my first month of actually watching the shows.
I said January 23rd because it was January 23rd in Australia, of course. It was the January 22nd episode of Impact, but aired live on the 23rd in Australia to respect the time zones.
Wow, the day before Australia Day? Australia Day.
You're a great Australian.
3 days before Australia Day.
In the wonderful celebration. So they had JB film a bunch of pieces while he was over on a WA tour so he could introduce the show for all the Australian viewers. There is a note in the Wrestling Observer that I'd like to keep track of. But according to Dave in the Observer, as it turns out, according to TV listings in Australia and the press release that Main Event Pay-Per-View from Australia sent out, Main Event Pay-Per-View being the pay-per-view provider who was showing the shows,
I know them well.
the show will not be airing weekly, as those in TNA had presumed, but will air once a month, which will make it more difficult for Australian viewers to follow the storylines. Do you frequently buy things on Main Event Pay-Per-View?
Back in the day, yeah. I bought WrestleManias on Main Event Pay-Per-View.
Interesting.
I bought one show that had a 3-way ladder match with Dolph Ziggler, Kofi Kingston, and Jack Swagger.
Was that a good match?
No.
Well, there you go.
And I bought a couple Manias. That's all I really remember. It was really hard to buy pay-per-view in Australia. It was like a whole complicated process where you had to ring up and talk to someone and say, hey, I would like to buy this pay-per-view. And they were like, okay, give us your money and your details now. And you had to read it all out and give them a pass. It was a whole thing.
Yeah, that's how it used to be here too, before like it was incorporated into like the actual television systems where you could just press some buttons and they added it to your bill.
The idea that you have to talk to someone about the pay-per-view that you're buying. What if you wanted to buy pornography?
Well, that was the very awkward thing, wasn't it? I'm sure the pay-per-view providers were very discreet.
And then laughing behind your back when you buy Big Butts Volume 85.
And they were like, oh no, 84 is where you want to go here, pal.
Yeah, I wish they gave out recommendations. Yeah. Like, 85's a little overplayed. You want to go for like the 60 realm?
It's like they really ran out of ideas there in the 70s.
Yeah, like the storylines fall off. Vince Russo starts booking them.
So yeah, the January 22 pay-per-view was very Australian. They tried to make it as Australian as they could.
Some would say too Australian.
They brought back Ashley Hudson for the show. They had JP do those introductions. They had a ton of like fans in the crowd with signs saying like "Welcome Australia," stuff like that.
We had Booty that was directed at the Australian audience.
We did have Australian Booty.
We had a little koala bear hanging out.
So they tried to pander to your people as much as they could. As an Australian, sitting here watching this show, trying to appeal to Australians, do you think it succeeded?
I don't think other countries care that much. No. Like if you're debuting something in a new demo, I don't think that demo cares if it's like all directed at them more than if the show is just a good show.
Yeah, they're like, you know what, the show was awful, but they had some Australian flags there, so I'm on board.
But to be fair, you may have gotten some people to tune in when Lollipop hit the high spot with the Australian flags on it. That may have kept some people, but other than that, I can't say that having Ashley Hudson on the show made people want to stick around. The Sex Australian Champion, though. Well, former Sex Australian Champion. I'm the current Sex Australian Champion.
Oh, when did you beat Ashley Hudson for that belt?
It was a endurance test. I don't need to expand.
Nope.
On that thought.